Hey there, Simone here with Bulletproof Business Growth, as always with some ideas and insights for what to pay attention to when you are scaling your business. A question we get a lot is like, hey, how come like really successful entrepreneurs, they can handle hundreds of thousands of employees and most business owners can't even handle 10? And this is kind of an easy to answer question, because they know and practice what others will not, because they know there's no way to grow and scale without this. So I'm going to take this apart a little bit for you, because building a winning team means that you learn how to lead leaders at every single level of your company. And that's one of the most important things that you have to do if you want to build a business that is sustainable and scalable. It does not work without these two things. So building a winning team, learning how to lead leaders is one of the most rewarding investments of your time as a business owner. And for many that never happens, because they get stuck in the operational grind, the day-to-day, you built a business because you were good at something, and then you hired people, and that doesn't mean you actually know how to take those people and make them into the most valuable asset that you've ever created. So it's the path to great leadership. When you think about it, it's paved with a lot of mistakes for most people. It's trial and error. Sometimes people go, there's lots of stuff on YouTube, there's lots of great books, but being able to actually put that into action, to implement that, it requires an astute understanding of human psychology. And that's what gets lost when you read a book or watch YouTube or wherever you get your knowledge, because you can't really ask the questions, you can't really implement, you don't have any mentorship with it. So that's why I'm saying the path to great leadership is paved with many, many mistakes for most people. And when you are at that level, when it's your time to build that great team, to get a really valuable number two in place, to make sure that you can actually scale this business, which is what all of you are wanting to do, chances are you are the bottleneck in your business at every single level of growth. Now, when I talk to people, everybody knows that to build a business that you can grow, you need to put operational systems and structures in place. And for most people, that means SOP, standard operating procedures, that kind of map out, hey, this is how we do things around here. This is the most efficient, effective way of doing stuff. And everybody knows that you got to do that. It's a must, because otherwise everybody does things the way they feel like, and there's nothing that is scalable, because it's pretty hodgepodge and the results are all over the place. So everybody knows that you can't really grow a business without having standard operating procedures that are defined, that everybody sticks to, that everybody operates as. Now, what I've realized over time is when I talk about SOPs, most people know what I'm talking about. But when I ask about their leadership systems, I just pretty much get a blank stare, because for most people, they don't have any. So everybody knows that SOPs are the basics to have a good team. And that's really important to have. So, but the thing to realize is that when you have really good leadership practices in place, and you are already building that great team, they can put those SOPs in place for you. And it's a big, momentous effort for most businesses to put that stuff in place. And part of why it doesn't get done is because most business owners feel like, oh my God, this momentous effort, this is this tremendous amount of stuff to do. And am I going to be able to have the time and the bandwidth to do this. And when they don't, what they don't realize is that if they already had a great team in place, they could use that team to get this stuff in place. So the thing that actually happens first before anything else is getting the right people on the bus and making sure you have the right people, that they have the systems that they need to be successful with, and that they have the leadership that they need so that they can bring the maximum value to the table and really perform for you. So when you think about your team is your most important asset, which also means your team is your most important customer. So for most entrepreneurs, when they think about customer, they think about the person who buys their little widget at the end of the journey. So this is the paying customer. But what they don't think about is that the more important customer is the team that serves the end user, the customer that pays. Because think about that. You can sell amazing things, but if you don't have good support for your customer, if they don't have a satisfying experience, no matter if there's an issue or not, but if they have an experience that they find pleasant, they will buy from you again. So now that customer is getting more and more valuable over time. So your LTV, your lifetime value for that customer, keeps getting higher and higher. Now that doesn't happen, at least not once you're growing and when you have more customers than you personally can handle. That doesn't happen without an amazing team in place. So think about this. I mean, most people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to their team. Most entrepreneurs do. And think about and that's the only way they look at their teams. But think about if you were being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year by a customer, wouldn't you take amazing care of them? Because you would want them to stay, right? You would want them to keep paying you money. Now, the thing is, that's exactly what your team does. When they're enabling you to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, billions of dollars every single year, they are in essence paying you. And many, many business owners do not take care of their team. They do not treat them like their most important customer, and that's who they are. So when you think about, wouldn't you treat your highest paying customers like the most important person on the planet? Well, it's time to build that dream team because they're exactly that. So you might wonder, what does it take to build that dream team? Well, it's pretty simple. We're going to talk about 4 things that are non-negotiable about that. We're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about trust, and we're going to talk about purpose. And the other part is what that actually means. So purpose could be the impact that they're creating, the mission that you're on, the significance, how much you change the world, and all that kind of stuff. So the first part about that is building a team that lives in a place of autonomy and collaboration. So they are empowered and they are enabled to take your vision and build it for you, in essence. So that's number 1. Second thing is you have to have a meaningful culture. That means the container that these people live in and work in. You also need to be able to boost people's capabilities. So that means they get better and better and better. And then the 4th part is we have to align the team around the execution of everything that it takes to deliver that product and that service all the time. That's not just once and done. It's something that's a practice that has to happen over and over again if you want it to be effective. So let's take this apart a little bit. So team autonomy. What does that mean? The typical route is first leaders or business owners figure out what they want to get done, like what the goals and objectives are, and then they're going to look at who's going to do this for me. But the better approach is just actually building your great team first so that you have the right team in place. Because think about this. For most business owners, what their vision is aligned around, what their goals and objectives are heavily influenced by what they think they can actually get done. So if they don't have a good team in place, their vision is going to be very limited. Their execution is going to be limited by that. So there's a lot of limiting beliefs and practices that happen because they don't have the right team in place. So first thing that we need to build is the right team that helps us as leaders, as owners, lead with the right strategy. So that's number one. And then once we have that, or as what's necessary to build that, is creating a ton of clarity with your vision and your goals. And that's really the key to having a great team. It's the key to finding the right top talent. It's the key to making sure once you hire the right people that they can hit the ground running, that they can really produce for you. It's the crux for everything. So we need to make sure that we give the right people the clarity that they need so that they can deliver. So they need to understand your vision in detail, and they need to understand your goals. And part of that is having really good job descriptions that really outline clearly people's roles and expectations for that. And, I know, like, when you get to that place, it's really scary to hand over the keys to your car pretty much, but this is why you hired them. So this is the only reason to have this team, is because you hired these great people to take over the stuff that you shouldn't be doing, that ideally they're better at than you are, so that they can drive that stuff so you can focus on the stuff that really matters, and none of that is in your operational day-to-day. So got to make sure we give them the clarity that they need, and then we need to set them up to win. Now, what a must is for that is creating really big trust on both sides and humility. Because here's the thing, if you don't trust your team, you're not going to hand over the key. You're going to micromanage the snot out of them. You're going to get in the way over and over and over of them actually doing the stuff that you hired them for. And as a leader, having great humility is super important, because your team needs to understand that, yes, you are the business owner, you're the leader, they respect you, you respect them, but they also need to know that you're human, that you have empathy, that when they show up, and this is all about when they show up, you will support them with the greatest skill and intention and processes that are available. So having great trust and great humility, of course, that goes the other side too. So we can't have team members that don't trust us, because if they don't trust you, that means you don't have their respect. That means you cannot influence them. That means you cannot lead them. So you need their trust, and you also need their humility, because if they don't have great humility, that means they don't show up as team players. That means you do not have a tightly aligned team. And when you don't have a tightly aligned team, you cannot drive outcomes. You're going to lose a ton of money, momentum, and impact on the way. So we need to make sure that we have that tightly aligned team at all times. So that takes trust and humility. Now, another piece of that is that drives collaboration, that drives strategy, and that drives intelligent action taking. So you as a leader, you are setting the strong guidelines for this. You're painting the roadmap, you're setting the guidelines of the broad strokes of how this will get done. And then the hard part comes, letting go and letting them do their job. That means you need to get out of the way, because if you don't, you are again the bottleneck of your business. So that's the part about setting up a team with autonomy. So the second piece was building a meaningful culture. Now, Peter Drucker said that culture eats strategy for breakfast every day. So that means, again, we need to have the right people on the right bus. And your bus means it needs to have an environment that people actually want to be in, and they have to share the same culture values. Now, everybody will probably have heard of core values for the company, and that is how your company acts externally. But we also make that distinction of culture values, which means how your team acts internally, how they show up, how they treat the customer, how they treat each other. So building that meaningful culture is huge. And part of that needs to be, for people to be in an environment they actually want to be in, that means there's got to be some fun in that. There's got to be, they got to be able to be creative, because fun and creativity go together. And what I either see is, like, in teams that work, I see that, and then in teams that don't work, a big ingredient generally can be fear and stress, and nobody can really work from a place of fear and stress. So we want to make sure that we have that culture set in place that's not a part of. So we want to have a culture of high performance, fun, creativity, innovation, accountability, all that good stuff. You get to define that with your team, what that looks like. But purpose is a big thing, because that means we're all aligned around the vision, the long-term plan, the mission, right? What we do, how we impact people, the value we bring to the world. So we have to be aligned around that. That's a big piece of creating that really strong culture. And, when you think about it, it's kind of like we're all in the same boat, rowing in the same direction, rowing in the right direction, but everybody needs to be rowing in the same direction, because otherwise, I don't know if you've ever been in a rowboat where somebody sticks their oar in the water, it makes everybody spin out of control. It makes everybody go off the right track. So we need the right people doing the right things, rowing in the same direction together for that piece of alignment. And then, of course, that's what drives productivity. I used to work with this startup in San Francisco that was very famous for their culture, for their happiness, for their productivity. And when I talked to the CEO about this, she said to me, look, when I first started this whole thing, I thought it was all about building a culture of happiness. But what I found pretty quickly is you can have a team of really happy people who are really stuck and just kind of lazy. So what I figured out is that our superstar move was to build a highly productive team, because when people feel highly productive, they're happy. So this is how we get to that happy culture. We help people feel that they're highly productive, not just be it, but also feel it. Give them the acknowledgement, give them the tool, give them the challenge. So how do you build? First of all, that's going to be you, right? So you have to feel like you're productive and happy so that you can build a team like that. But that's also on you, because that means you have to supply the vision that gives them the inspiration that they need. And also you have to be the leader that keeps building challenges for them, that keeps them growing, engaged, and interested. Because if you don't, people grow stagnant and then their performance immediately goes down. So we need to build that highly performing, highly productive team that is engaged in your vision, that's highly inspired, and that appreciates and wants the challenges that you throw them, because they know they want a growth. So everybody on your team has to have that growth mindset that goes with that. And all that together allows them to feel accomplished. It allows you to build this legacy that builds a company that is sustainable going forward. And that kind of culture does not happen by default. It's something that you have to not just build, but then you have to be the guardian of that culture. You have to help it be sustained, because that culture only works if it's something that's perpetual, that people keep being reminded of, that you use for your reviews, that you use for your vision setting, everything. So we need to make sure that that culture gets perpetuated throughout your organization over and over and over, no matter if you have 1,000 people or 10 or 5. So we talked about the first two things, and then the third thing is we got to make sure we keep boosting people's capacities. So that means growing them. So especially when you look at, what keeps people from, like, once you hire those right people and they're rock stars, they're amazing, how do you sustain them, and how do you retain them? And part of that is what I just talked about, giving them great challenges that keep them growing, because they have a growth mindset. They want to keep learning. They want to keep growing. And that's what it means to boost their capabilities. So when you think about how that works, early on when you're a startup, when you're a younger business, it's you who's showing them what and how to do. But once you're an established business, once you're a seasoned business, now it's about you coaching your team. And once you start having layers of leadership, that means you're coaching your leaders, and then they coach their leaders. So you coach your leadership team, they coach their own team, whether they have a leadership team below them or just a team of doers. But that is really the most important thing, so that we keep building this principle of leaders at every level of your company. Every single person in your team can be a leader. It doesn't matter if they are an executive or they sweep the floors. It's all about a mindset. It's all about an attitude. So one of the first important things that you have to do so you can do that is you have to learn who they are. So look at your leadership team, the people who directly report to you, and that's all I'm talking about. You have to learn who they are, so you understand what motivates them, what inspires them, what makes them team players, where they challenge, so that you can give them the coaching and the mentorship that will solve that for them. You have to understand what they're passionate about. And that entire team should complement each other. They should not have the same skill sets. They should be specifically good at what they do, and that set of talent should complement each other so that you have a well-balanced team. Now, one way you can achieve that is by using personality assessments like DISC, for instance, which we like because it's simple, and it's very powerful and easy to understand. So making sure that you boost people's capacities by growing them. And then the fourth part, and that's overall the most important thing to talk about and to practice, is to keep aligning the execution of the plans that you're making. So, it starts with them knowing company priorities. And most companies, most business owners think that their team knows company priorities, and you'd be surprised how often that's not true. But even if they do know company priorities, everybody has a different idea of what the company goals are and how to get there. So they might know the priorities, but they might not know the methods for how to get there, and then actually the action steps and everything around that. So it's really important for you to get that set. And part of your journey here is to kind of shift from being the business owner who's probably still working heavily in your business, to becoming the CEO, the leader of your business. So once you are in that CEO role, that means that lots and lots and lots of your time is actually spent setting up that vision for your team so that they understand company strategy, and then communicating and talking about the understanding of this frequently. So you communicate with them what that actually is, and then you follow up to make sure that they actually get on the same page, and that they stay on the same page, and that they're all aligned with each other. Because when you think about all the different perspectives in your company, that only works when they're aligned with each other. Can they be a highly performing, scalable, and sustainable team. So part of what really helps you do that is having structured, prepared, and highly effective weekly action review meetings. And we teach our clients to do that because, well, as most people think, most meetings suck because they're not structured, they're not prepared, they don't have a common objective, they don't follow a plan, so they're a huge waste of time and cost the company a whole bunch of money instead of making them money through aligned and prioritized strategy. So big thing of that is the communication. So the way that works is you have those weekly meetings with your leadership team, and then you have to make sure that your leadership team is also meeting with their teams, and those leaders are meeting with their teams, so that we have, again, that alignment through every single level of the company. Most important. And the other part of that is like, yeah, you have these team meetings, and this is the part that most business owners really don't want to do, is having one-on-ones. So one-on-ones once a week with every single report they have, which, yes, it takes up a lot of your time, and it is the most important thing you can do as a leader. So you keep leading those people, you keep unblocking them, you keep helping them, you keep growing them, you keep giving them the resources, you keep being their mentor, which is what they're paying you for, with their time, their energy, their commitment, their engagement, the extra mile they're going. So this is what the goals and expectations, the expectations of today's workforce is that is there. They're being grown, they're being supported, they're being mentored, they're becoming more and more valuable. They're getting better at what they do all the time. And I promise you, they will leave if you don't do this, or even worse, they will stay and they're not contributing even nearly the investment that you've put into them. So we got to have that. We got to have those weekly meetings. We got to have the weekly one-on-ones, because this is really the only way you can grow your company. So, when you think about great players, always need to be a unit. Whether this is in business, as a team, in your company, many of you probably follow sports. And have you ever seen a winning team that was not a unit, that didn't actually function like a team in sports? Well, it's the exact same thing in business. So we need a winning team in business just as much as we need a winning team in sports. So this is really vital, crucial for scaling. And when you think about that, when you're a startup, when you are still a young company, when you're still setting this up, you might get away with micromanaging and doing stuff yourself, but that stops pretty quickly. When you're being successful, you have a lot of clients coming in. Now your responsibilities go higher and higher and higher. And that definitely means now you need to step into being the CEO, where you will not do that anymore. You're building that autonomous, empowered team where that is self-managing and that helps you grow the company. So everything I talked about today is so incredibly important. I hope you're getting a ton of value out of this. If you want to know more about this, we have a brand new training out that covers all this in detail, step by step. Go to bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com/leap, bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com/leap, and check out that training. So I hope you're having a fabulous week. A few holidays coming up. Enjoy, and I will see you next week.